Hey guys, I'm so excited because you know what? This is the first time I have been out on a road trip since the pandemic started. Look, we've got an in and out within a day's drive of us. Woo! 4x4. I have a much smaller appetite. It's a double protein style because I can't eat gluten. One cool thing about this road trip is I have a second driver. It's so awesome. So for our first day, we basically popped down I-5 to Highway 58, went over the mountains, and then down Highway 97 to Highway 62 to the Annie Creek Sno-Park.
Well, good morning. If you know me, you know I have a preferred type of travel clothes, and I'm not wearing those right now, and there's quite a story behind that. But that's going to be part of a different video, um, which will drop in a couple days. Where we are right now, we are at the Annie Creek Sno-Park, technically. I say that because you get off Highway 62 at the Annie Creek Sno-Park, but there's also a dirt road leading down, and there's a whole lot of open land here where you can just camp, and that's where we are. So I'm gonna give you a quick look around where we are, and you can see there's only one other person on this part of the road. We probably could have found a more deserted part if we'd kept going, but by the time we got here it was 11 p.m. and we were dead, so we just wanted to find a place to stay as quickly as possible. But we are pretty remote here. It's great. Leaving the campsite behind, I'm going to go for a little walk and try re-recording the segment I thought I was recording when my thing ran out of power. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about this trip, why I'm doing it, what I hope to get out of it. Let's start with a little bit about me. So I am a professor at the Evergreen State College, which is a non-traditional college, in that a lot of what we teach is not individual classes, but rather interdisciplinary programs where you have several subjects taught to one set of students by one set of professors. Because you're not tied to multiple different class schedules, you can do cool things like go on field trips for prolonged periods of time. So the longest I have been out has been 8 days, I think. But I know people who take their students out for 2+ weeks at a time. And so we were supposed to do a whole bunch of field trips this fall for my program, which are now not happening because we can't do field trips in a socially distanced manner. Yay, pandemic. What we're doing on this road trip here, my son and I are basically recording so we can have a virtual field trip for my students. In order to understand why I chose the sites that we did, you have to understand what exactly I'm teaching here. And so the program I'm teaching is called Exploring Other Worlds, Astrobiology and Instrumentation. So it's a mix of astrobiology, analytical chemistry / remote sensing, and also some technical writing, because we always throw technical writing into my programs. So astrobiology is a subject that is near and dear to my heart because I've been a collaborator on an astrobiology project for the last, cannot believe I'm saying this, 9 years. It really does not seem that long. I wanted to find a couple of good places where we could look at the difference between remote measurements, so satellite data, and what we field scientists call ground truth. So what is it actually like at the site when you're there? Because there's a lot of stuff that you miss when you're only looking from the sky. So the idea then was that at least one of these sites that we're going to be visiting on this trip was one that I was going to do as part of a field trip. We were going to look at the satellite data before we left, have them identify what things they thought were the cool stuff, and then we were going to go see if that actually was the cool stuff. That was the plan. The nice thing about doing things this way is that
we are going to hit a lot more sites than I would have been willing to take students to. So this trip has gotten very muddled. I am the sort of person who obsessively plans road trips. It is one of those things that helps keep me sane when I work as hard as I do. It's like my little escape. If I can't go on a road trip right now, I'll plan one. And so this road trip I have been planning basically since the Canadian border closed, since my original plan was to go up to Banff. And when I realized I wouldn't be able to do the field trips, I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do instead. So I've been planning, and I had a great plan. And then all the wildfires started in California, so we had to kill one of our California sites. And so I reworked it. And of course, I had to be very careful planning because I always try and avoid large groups of people when I'm camping, because I have to put up with that enough in my regular life. In the pandemic, it's worse. Ooh, look, they've been doing some logging here. I knew I had to be out over Labor Day weekend, which is something I usually avoid. But in this case, my school has the requirement that we quarantine for 14 days when we get back. And I am, even though we can't do field trips, I am actually doing some one-on-one instrumental training in the fall. And so I need to be on campus. And so I have to get back from this trip at least 2 weeks before school starts. So that meant that, I had to go out over Labor Day weekend. And so I was set this up in such a way that we were going to go to the places where I thought the fewest people would be over the weekend. Then we would go to the places where people like to go after Labor Day weekend was over. We figure all the kids would be back in school. Yay, quarter system for, being a little different. Yeah, look, check out the sun. See how smoky it is, and there are no fires around here. That's just residual from the California wildfires. So I had this all set up. We were going to go to Death Valley first, because I figured most people don't like to go to Death Valley in the summer. And so we had this all planned out after rejiggering to account for wildfires. And then literally the day before we left at it was like 9:30 or 10 p.m., my son said, "Did you know that it's going to be 120 degrees in Death Valley on the day we're going to be there?" And I was like, oh, whoops. So literally last minute, I've had to reconfigure this. And so now we are going to Crater Lake first over Labor Day weekend, which is not something I really wanted, but that's what we got. I hope to show you some really cool sights, and unlike other travel vloggers, I can tell you something about the geology because my PhD is in geochemistry, and so I know a bit about geology, and I can tell you all sorts of hopefully cool scientific facts. So this is, like I said, an unusual road trip in that I actually have my son along, and he's going to help me video, so maybe you'll get some video of me from afar. Well, here we are at Crater Lake. Crater Lake is what's left over of Mount Mazama, which, like many peaks in the Cascades, used to be about 14,000 feet high. Where I'm standing right now, I'm at about 8,000 feet in elevation. So essentially, we've lost several cubic miles of material here from the original mountain. Last time I was up here, first of all, there was 10 feet of snow, which was kind of crazy. But also, there was a guy who was asking me how we know this is a volcanic crater and not the remnants of a meteorite impact. So let's look at a couple of different ways that we know that. First of all, we have this little island in the lake, which is called Wizard Island, and that is actually volcanically active. Because it erupts, we know that there's still volcanic activity going on here. So the other reason we know that this was a volcanic explosion is just looking here on the western slope of the mountain. And what you see here is a whole lot of volcanic rock, and particularly what we've got here is we've got pumice. So if you look here, you can see all the little holes in it, and what you can't see on video is how light this is. It is super light, just very light. But you can see if you look down, it's just littered with pumice, and there's some really super big chunks. Now this is heavier than pumice, but you can still see it's got all these holes in it, which is characteristic of a very explosive eruption. So now what you can see here, in addition to our pumice, we have this these large blocks, and these large blocks are also from an explosive volcanic eruption, and you can tell that because there's all these holes in them. But if you look over on this side right here, what you see is large pink crystals, and those crystals formed before the eruption and are embedded in the magma that was still liquid at the time of the explosion. So here we basically have a catastrophic volcanic eruption. Oh, we also have these chunks, and these were not formed by erosion. The edges are a little rounded now because they've been sitting out for 10,000 years, but you can see they used to be pretty sharp. If you look up close at the crystal structure on these actually have crystals in them. So this was formed slowly as the magma cooled below the volcano, underground, and then the chunks of that cooled rock got blown out by the force of the explosion. So there's all this broken up stuff on this side, and in fact out east, which is the way the wind blows, you can find the same material for hundreds, even thousands of miles. This was the first time that I can remember driving all the way around Crater Lake, which to me is definitely worth the drive. There was a bit of smoke from the California wildfires blowing up, but all in all, it was a really great excursion. This was just day one of an 8-day road trip. We've got more video coming up soon, so if you want to see that, please subscribe.